Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How is everyone doing today? A lot of highs in the chat. Yeah, let us know how do you greet in your own language. We would definitely love to learn some new words today. Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Billy. Okay, then. So let's start up today's session then. So we are at the end of phase two of the Intro to Webflow series, and today we'll be learning how to create e-commerce websites using Webflow. Yes, you can make Webflow e-commerce websites as well, and they're very, very simple. So for today's session, as some of you have started up saying in the chat, we have with us Melissa Mendez, the founder of Eurecah, creator of the Flow Party, and co-host of the Webflow Show. And if you follow any content about Webflow, then there is a very, very high probability that you already know her. And for our friends who might not know her, she's a growth marketer, web developer, and advocate of design with 8+ years in the industry, who is also running a community for people to learn how to become better designers in a safe and fun space. I'm sure today is going to be a fun session. Over to Melissa, and here we go.
Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to host this session. E-commerce and Webflow is a really fun topic, one that I love. So super excited to teach everyone as much as I can. So should we start? Great. Okay. So let me share my screen first. I did a little small presentation before we go into the nitty gritty. So welcome to Webflow e-commerce. So as we know, Webflow gives us the ability to make our sites e-commerce. So you would ask yourself, what is Webflow e-commerce? And it's just a feature with all the basic capabilities to sell physical and digital goods. Now, why Webflow e-commerce? So unlike other e-commerce platforms, Webflow for me, it's the best solution because I personally have all the freedom to build beautiful stores with the other features that Webflow offers. So I make use of the CMS, which is super easy for my clients to manage. And I can also make a beautiful custom design for my clients. And then on top of that, if you're looking to take your e-commerce store to the next level, there are many options where you can build your store on Webflow and then connect to an API for maybe like Shopify. So that way you can offer more flexibility to your clients, maybe some that are looking for specific shipping solutions or specific product listings. So having the front end on Webflow, or at least building the website on Webflow and then maybe exporting the code or connecting to the API is a great solution to make your store even better. So let's talk today about a use case, which I actually talked about this on the Flow Party a few months back, but I think it's such a valuable use case that I want to repeat it here. So the everyday trainer is a client of mine, Megan Doherty. She is a dog trainer based in Orlando, Florida. She decided to build her website on Webflow, and we built her website, e-commerce shop, and membership panel or membership platform in Webflow. Her store actually sells leashes. So they're like long leashes for dogs. It's sort of like revolutionary. And after a few videos on TikTok, she became viral, and now she sells her leashes on Webflow's e-commerce store that we built for her. Now, this has been so important for her because before she had this store, she had a WordPress store that was super hard to maintain. And the capabilities of Webflow's e-commerce gave her and her team the flexibility to be able to maintain her site and keep the products up to date, keep her customers up to date, and be able to manage the store seamlessly. So before further ado, let's go into the store. So I first want to show you what the store looks like, so you can have an idea of what we're going to be going over here. So this is her website. As you can see, there's, the different pages. Then she has her shop, the login for the members, which we won't cover today. We will only cover the shop. But just so you have an idea of like how her shop looks, this is what we built for her. So as you can see, you go into the second section where you can see the newest products in this store, actually, we're not showcasing the leashes. We're showcasing dummy content for her holistic line for dog medicine. So as I was saying, you have here a 3-grid column with the name of the product, the price, a brief description, and then the learn more. So if you click on the learn more, you go into the product page, which is super nice. You can add the quantity that you want, add it to cart, and you can see the product already added to cart. We added a cute little just sort of features that her products have, and then a little FAQ. So something very, very simple. And I will walk you through how to build this part of the page so you can see how the e-commerce for Webflow works. So those are ordinary products because these are pictures that we just took as dummy from Unsplash just to show you how this works. Obviously, after I'm done, you guys can ask all the questions and I'll try to go over the ones that you drop here. So let's go into Webflow. Yeah, I'm going to make it full screen now. Okay, so let's increase this a little bit. Okay, great. So I already created a dummy page here just so we can build everything from scratch. So let me just go here. 1 second. Okay. So as you can see, we have a main wrapper. We haven't done anything. So imagine we're in the page, we dropped the div block, we called it wrapper, which is the wrapper that is hugging everything inside of this shop page. Then we obviously dropped a nav bar, which is a symbol that was pre-made. And we also dropped a footer that was already also pre-made. Now, inside of that wrapper, after the nav bar, we dropped a hero section, which is just a very simple hero section with a div block inside that wraps the hero heading with a small helper text and an H1. All of them have been styled here, if you can see on the panel on the right, and a height of 50 viewport height. So super simple. I wanted to keep it clean just so we don't get confused with other stuff. So let's go into the shop section. So the shop section has already the class. We gave it some padding, and that is about it. Inside of the shop section div block, I added a shop container, which is also a div block that has the properties of auto to keep it centered, and a max width of 1400 pixels. And inside of this shop container, which again, it's a div block, it's not a container, I dropped a collection list. So the collection list is what it's going to allow us to connect to the e-commerce CMS. So if you go here on the left hand, you can see that you see the e-commerce feature already ready to go. So obviously, when you start an e-commerce project, you want to make sure that all of your store setup is done. So that means adding a business address, deciding what currency you're going to be using. You can start adding your products. You can add a shipping method. So all of the things that your shop is going to need, Webflow gives you a setup guide so you can do it super easy. Then obviously it takes you into design your store, which is what we're already doing. And then once you're ready to go live, you have to obviously decide which payment provider you're going to use, which they provide Stripe and PayPal, and then web payments, which are, I think, Amazon Pay and Apple Pay, if I'm not wrong. Then obviously you need a valid hosting plan for Webflow e-commerce. So obviously you can go into the pricing plan and decide which one works best. But honestly, for me and like all of my clients, the basic e-commerce plan works perfectly. Obviously, you want to enable SSL to make sure that payment processing is secure. And then once you're ready to go, you enable checkout. Because if not, all of your orders will be going through as dummy orders. So cool. So once that is done, the setup is done, you want to go into your product CMS. So as you can see, if we go here into the setup, you can see that I already pre-built the structure for this e-commerce product. It's super easy, so you don't have to feel overwhelmed or anything by this, but it's basically choosing what type of product you're going to be adding, because in the front end, you will be able to create filters that will let you show the type of products that you want on that page. And I will show you that in a little bit. But for this specific set of products, we want to sell physical products. You can see that I added a option here for product type. We have name, description, categories, which is a multi-reference, main image, more images. So when you're in the product page, you can scroll through different images. Billing method, subscription plan. This is all for the other side of her business, which is the membership. So we don't have to worry about this now. Identifiers, she wanted to have an SKU. We want to be able to track inventory. We want to be able to add how many quantity we have, if this requires shipping or not, because some products are physical. So, obviously you need to ship them, but if they're digital, you don't need shipping. And for that, if you require shipping, you need to make sure that you add the weight, the width, height, and length. Why? Because for shipping companies, usually when you're going to ship products, the shipping company tells you, okay, you want a contract with us, cool. These are our prices based on weight and measurements. So you want to make sure that your products have all of that information so you don't get sort of, screwed in the future with shipping costs. Then we go into options. So, maybe one product has different colors or different sizes of different colors. So you want to make sure to add that. And then those product variants also have different option fields. So all of that is pre-built here. You can build it however you want. And once it's done, you save the collection and you're ready to start adding products. So obviously I don't want to do all that from the beginning. So let's open one of the products and we can see that we chose the physical product option. It's called a probiotic. We have a little description here of what the product is. We added it as a supplement category. We added that Unsplash dummy picture, and that's it. We don't really have much else in here apart from the price, standard automatic tax calculation, and it does require shipping, and these are the measurements. That is it. So we've saved that, and we can obviously see that we have more products. And you will also see that we have services. So we have everything here mixed up, and in the front end, we created a filter so we can only show those physical products. So let's go back to the front end. And if we see here the structure of how this was built, we go back into, so remember we went through the shop hero, we have all of this information here that we added, and then we went into the shop section. Inside of the shop section, we have a shop container, again, the div block to keep everything nice and organized. And then we go into the collection list wrapper. So the collection list wrapper inside has an item. And this item, we're going to call it a product grid. So let's give it a class. So the product grid, obviously it's a grid. We have 3 columns, and because obviously all of the products that we have in total are 6, it's going to pre-fill everything that we have. It doesn't really have anything else in it. So let's just go into the product item and let's style this. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to add a div block, which is going to serve as the little box for the product. So if we go back to here, we can see that this is what we're building. We're building this whole wrapper. So let's go back to Webflow, and this div block is going to be called product. So this product, we have it on display flex, vertical and stretched, and a space in between. Why? Because we want to make sure that the items that are going to be inside are covering the width of the container, and then they're staying apart from each other. So that is all that we have on that one. So let's go here. So actually this collection item is called, let me see. Actually, this is product. And then this one is the product wrapper. Okay. So the only difference in here is that I gave it a minimum height of 100% position relative, and then I also gave it some margin so everything is not, bumping into the ends. So after the product wrapper, what we're going to do is we're going to add another div block, and this div block is going to be the image. So we're going to call that one product image. Let me see, where are you? Product image. And basically what you see here is a radius. So one thing that I like to do is if we're going to have this like super custom shapes on our client site, we want to make sure that the div block is actually that shape. Because the problem is that if we just add a div block and we don't really add the rounded corners or the shape that we want, the client will swap that image and it'll just break the whole layout. So we want to make sure that the div block follows the shape that we want. So when they change it, it stays the same size or the same shape. We gave it a height of 20 REM and a little bit of margin of 2 REM. So how do we connect our e-commerce to this section? So once we are here on the collection list wrapper, we go into the source. Obviously, you're going to see that you have your CMS collections, which are blogs and things like that. And at the end, we have e-commerce. So that's where we want to connect this collection list to our e-commerce, and that's it. It's already connected. So if we go into the product image, we want to make sure to say to this, like, hey, e-commerce, bring me the main images from each one of your products. So if we go into the settings and you just click here into get background image from the product list, you can just choose the main image and it'll populate all the products. Now, remember I told you earlier that we had not only physical products combined with services, and that we were going to add a filter to tell the list, like, only show me this type of products. Well, that's what we're going to do here. And this is one of the best features that Webflow has, in my opinion, which is filters. Obviously, FinSuite does this like in a much advanced way, but if you're just doing a simple store that you just want to add or show some of the products, this is the way to go. So if we go into the product grid, we can see that we're still here on the settings. We can go into limit items, into filters, and we're going to add a filter, and the filter is going to be product type equals physical. So if you drop down, you can see all of the different product types that this store has. So we're going to click physical, save, and you're going to see that only the physical products are going to be shown. So that's how you add your filter. So we go back into the product wrapper, and now let's just keep adding the rest of the items. So we're going to add now a text blog to add the name of the product. So product name already has a little bit of styling, which is just a 1 REM margin, and then all of the typography styling. And we're going to tell the CMS, like, hey, bring me the text from the product, and the field is going to be name. So right away you have it there. We go back into the parent, and now we're going to drop a price. So it's going to be another text block, and we're going to call this price. Same thing, a little bit of margin, 1 REM, and then the typography styling. We're going to extract the price from the billing section here. Then we go back to the parent and drop a description. So that's going to be a paragraph. We're going to add a little styling to this. Same thing. Now it has a 2 REM. And then just a little bit of styling, and we're going to tell the CMS, please bring the text from description. Cool. Now we go back into the parent, and now we're going to drop a button. So there's two ways to do this. You can either add to cart right away, or you can tell the user, like, hey, view the product, and then you take him into the product page. So that's what I did for this one. So let's just style this. The class is called button, and basically what we have here is a little bit of padding on all ends with auto. Then we have a typography styling, some radius, some border styling, and a little bit of animation. So when on hover, it kind of does this. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to connect the product to the current product. So when we click on it, it's going to take us to that specific product that the CMS e-commerce is connected to. Obviously, we're going to change this text to view product. And as you can see, obviously, it changes on the other products. And that's basically how you build this section. It's super, super easy to do. As you can see, it works exactly like CMS. Nothing complicated. You add the products exactly how you add a blog post. So it's super simple. So the rest of the demo, I just want to walk through the things you need to keep in mind when you're building your store, because unlike the blog, that you only have to design a blog page and a blog template page, for e-commerce, you need to do a little bit more. So let's go over to the product template. So if you can see in your structure of pages, you have your static pages, your CMS collections, and then your e-commerce pages. When you activate your e-commerce, this is going to be activated automatically. So if we go to the product page, we can see here that it's just like any other page that you design on Webflow. If we go into the structure here, it's the same thing. So we have our nav bar, which is this one. Oh no, that one's the mobile nav bar, but this is the nav bar. Then we have another little item that it's specific to e-commerce. So we have the cart. So for e-commerce, obviously you need to have a cart. So it's super easy to add. You simply go to the e-commerce section and you drop your cart. Now to edit this component, you have to edit component here on the top and then go to settings and open cart. And in here, Webflow gives you all the flexibility for you to design a card. And you can really let your imagination go because it has all the options for you to design beautiful cards. So you can decide to do a pop-up, or you can maybe decide to do a left one or a right one, or the one that I had. So for this one, let's keep it big just so it's easier to see. And then there is also easing options. You can even take this even further if you like animation. But if you want to keep it simple, you just do it like that. It allows you to add the duration of the open and close. And then obviously it gives you the different states for you to design. So like obviously this one is your default state, then you have your empty state, and then you have your error state. All of those you can design. You can decide how many products you want the user to preview. So we had it at 3 for now. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And if we go inside of the cart, you can see that it works just like the e-commerce, just like a CMS. So it pulls all of the information from the product collection or the product e-commerce collection. And all of the information here is pulled by the same process. And you just simply start adding things that you want to customize. So if you want to have a really quirky store that has little messages or cool stuff, I don't know, that's what Webflow allows you to do. And that's why I love e-commerce on Webflow. So let's close the cart. And now we go into just the main product section. So in here, obviously, we already know that this is pulling from the CMS. Remember that the user flow is we were in that grid, we click on view product, and then we land on this page. So if you see here on the top, you will see all of the products that are linked. So we can switch between the different products here. And it's just super easy, but you have to only design this page one time because obviously it's a CMS. You don't have to duplicate this. So when you have it empty, you simply think, okay, perfect. So what do I want here? I want the first thing that the user sees is the image of the product, which is already pulling from the product CMS, which you can see it here, and it's pulling the main image. You can give it the heading, the price, and then you can start adding all of this information. So where do you find that? If you go to e-commerce, you can see that your button for add to cart is right here. You just drop it there, and that's how you start styling that and your cart. Now, something that it's important to point out in e-commerce, this can't be a regular button. It has to be an add to cart e-commerce button, because if not, it won't recognize it. You can add a little description, and then we added the little cute little feature specs for that product and make it really nice and different. And then you can obviously add frequently asked questions, or you can even drop another grid with a filter to maybe upsell your clients or your customers for different products that you want them to buy. So you can create a whole client or customer flow on your product page and just do it however you want it. So yeah, so that is the product page. If we go back into the e-commerce pages, we have the checkout. So the checkout is already pre-designed for you by Webflow, and the only thing you need to do is just start giving everything classes and making sure that everything has your brand, the branding that you want for the store. So what I did is I just started giving everything, little classes, or it's bringing it from the style guide, but it's just really, really simple. And then the same thing for the PayPal checkout. If you're enabling PayPal, that it's not necessary, but if you want, you can do it. And then lastly, we have the order confirmation. So yeah, it's super simple. I love to make e-commerce websites on Webflow. I think it's very fun to do, and the projects are different, and obviously they're higher ticket items. So yeah, I just love it. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. So let me know if you have any.
Okay, so we have the first question from Janpark, and the question is, what is the tech stack behind the everyday trainer next to Webflow? Which integrations are used?
Nothing. We don't have anything integrated apart from Webflow. So they have their marketing side of the website, which is all built on Webflow. Then we have the e-commerce activated for her selling physical products and services, because she sells training guides for dogs that she creates. And then we also have the membership enabled, but that was before Webflow memberships was enabled. So we used MemberStack. Well, actually, there is a tech stack then. We have MemberStack, and that is it. It's like a robust website, but everything is done in Webflow, so it's super lean.
Okay, the next one is from Brittany. Do you have a recommended shipping company that you use for most of your clients, or do they choose? Is there an integration to get those details to the shipping company easily?
So all of my clients that we've done e-commerce for already have like external contracts with shipping companies, and usually they use USPS because they are in the US. But I know that they have Shippo, and it's an actual integration. So you could use Shippo, and through Shippo, you get the different rates for shipping. I know they do international, but I think that's just like a standard rate of like, I think last time I checked was like $35 per pound if it was international or something like that. So yeah, that's something that's a little bit trickier, but I think it would be more like a company thing that they would need to do, and not so much Webflow.
Okay. The next one is a little bit on a fundamental side, and that is, what's the difference between div blocks and containers?
Yeah, so the difference is that containers gives you a set width. So sometimes you don't want to have that constraint. So you either have to add a minimum width to the container, or might as well just use a div block and give the HTML tag that you want for SEO purposes. But yeah, that's really the only difference. Div block just gives you more flexibility, and the container is just contained.
Okay, the next one is from Anya, and the question is: the e-commerce website I want to build is for a bakery. The business owner is planning to use a local delivery by bicycle service. How can that be added to Webflow? Do you still need to list dimensions of the product?
No, you don't really need to add dimensions to the product if they're using a delivery by bicycle service. I would just use the no delivery, no shipping option. Um, would I use the no shipping option? Because you still need to notify your clients or your customer that the order has been shipped. So actually, yes, I would enable shipping, but you would have to, or your client would have to manually check that the product was shipped so that the customer receives a shipping confirmation. So it's just a little bit more manual, but if you have a delivery by bicycle service, it's because you're a local store or merchant, which, you know, maybe the volume won't be as huge and it'll be more manageable.
Okay, the next one is from Billy, and the question is: when in edit mode, I position elements exactly where I would want them to be on the actual live website. However, every now and then there are some elements that misbehave and change their position in preview mode. Can you please help?
Yeah. So usually that happens when the dimensions of the product or responsiveness is not done correctly, or maybe it has some constraint that it's not allowing the element to fit correctly into its container or its parent container. So I think like this is something that happens when somebody that it's a designer and doesn't really have HTML and CSS experience has to go through while learning Webflow, because that's what happened to me. So what you need to understand is that when you're designing a website or a page on Webflow, it's like building blocks. So everything has to fit perfectly next to the other. And it's blocks inside of blocks inside of blocks. And if you're wrapping something inside of another block, you need to make sure that the measurements are responsive. So when the screen changes size, the blocks change size accordingly. And that usually happens when you use relative measurements. So maybe right now you're using pixels, and pixels are fine. But when you have a div block with a specific width and height, it will stay that size no matter the screen size. Now, if you're using a relative measurement like REM, EMs, percentages, or even viewport width or viewport height, then your container will behave the same way as the screen will behave. Like it'll fit accordingly. So I would suggest that you give a little bit of time to study relative measurements instead of pixels, so you don't have that problem and you can design websites that are more responsive based on screen sizes. We talk about this on the flow party a lot, so if you need more information you can go there and people can help you about that.
Okay, the next one is: how does sending shipping confirmation work? Does the client need to log into Webflow to do it? So this is in continuation from the local delivery question.
Yeah, so if we're doing this manually, so let me see. Do I have data on that here? I don't think I have any orders. No, I don't have any orders on this one. But usually when you start doing orders on Webflow or receiving orders on Webflow, you will see the list here. And once an order is shipped, you have to go into the product and click it and tick like it has been shipped. So an email triggers and gets sent to the client. That is if you have no integrations with your e-commerce. but you can actually integrate your e-commerce to Shippo, so you don't have to do this manually. So when you are fulfilling the order on Shippo and just press print label, the client or the customer will receive the email automatically. Does that make sense? Let me know if it does on the chat.
Okay, so let's take another one till then. So this is in the new Figma and Webflow plugin. I'm designing in Figma first and then transferring it to Webflow. Have you used the new plugin? What steps would you take after you copy the design in Webflow? And how can I add the CMS if the structure is already designed without it?
I have not used the plugin yet, but from what I think, because so they already gave pre-made layouts, which have already a set structure inside. So if you already have something that was built, I would say it would be like, it would take more time for you to basically remake the whole design on Figma and then transfer it to Webflow. If it was something that was done from the beginning, I would use the Figma to Webflow plugin, because you can create everything from scratch, using the structure that they're providing. But if it's something that it's already done, I wouldn't use the plugin. I would just follow what they already have. Let me stop sharing my screen.
The next one
Okay.
is on the intensity of usage and in terms of if Webflow ecom can be used to create larger stores of, like, let's say 200 or 300 products.
If you go to the pricing on Webflow, I think it gives you the amount of products that you can add for each plan that they offer. Let me go here and check, because I am not sure. So, okay, so we have e-commerce on the standard plan, which is $29 a month. On a yearly plan, you get 500 e-commerce items. In the plus, which is $74 a month, you get 5,000. And on the advanced, which is $212 a month, you get 15,000 e-commerce items. So you can definitely have a bigger store. Just keep in mind that if you have this store that has so many products, there could be more complexities that are needed, integrations that may be needed. So just make sure that you understand really, really well what your client needs, so you don't promise something that maybe can't be done, and maybe you will need to do some form of integration or something.
Okay, the next one is from Emmanuel, and this is again back on theory. So I noticed you used majorly div blocks for centering your content within the sections. Would you say div blocks are better for this purpose than containers?
Yeah, I mean, I use div blocks for everything. I rarely use containers because of that constraint. Because sometimes I want to build, let me show you. Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
So if we go back to Webflow and we go into just a plain page, let's call this test. We're in the body, and let's drop a section. So this section is covering the whole width, and inside of the section, I want to add a container. So if you can see, the container right away has a specific measurement. And if I want to add, like, I don't know, 1,600 pixels on the width, I can't. The only way for me it's to I had said minimum width. It's actually a maximum width that I can add. So let's say that I want a maximum width of 1,600 pixels. That's the only way I can do it, but I can't really add a width. So it's like really constraining. And I'm going to add a color here just so we can see the difference. And let's add a black color to the section. And if we go here, you can see that, you know, it does have the width, but I just don't really like using containers because of that. But if I add a div block, I can decide what measurement to add in any of the three values, either width, minimum width, or maximum width. So I can tell my div block, which could be like the main wrapper that wraps the whole page. I can say like, hey, your minimum width is going to be 1800. So I just want it wider. You know what I mean? And if we go into, let me add a viewport height, it's going to cover the whole thing as a minimum width. So that means that you can be, the minimum you can be in width is 1800. And after that, you can grow as much as you can. And on the container, it's not going to allow me to do that. So that's why I think I use div block more. And I don't know if that makes sense. And I thought containers were mandatory to be centered. They're not? Yeah. Containers are mandatory are by default centered. Let me just step out of this. Let's erase this. If we go here and we drop a container, it's always going to be in the middle. And if you can see here, the margins are set to auto, which are centered. So, you know, it's really it's just very, very constraining.
Okay, then let's take the next one, I believe. The next one is from Sarah, and the question is, how does it work, the payment methods in Webflow? Is it something extra to add on to Webflow before publishing it, or is it there already as an inbuilt feature, and how secure is that?
So, can I share my screen again? Sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so once you have set up your store, you can go into the settings, into e-commerce, then you go into payment, and then you connect to either Stripe or PayPal. So you will have to open a Stripe account, and you just connect it here. So, you know, obviously I'm not going to log into her account, but you just enter your login information, continue, and everything will be linked. Stripe charges obviously a transaction fee, which is 2.9 percent plus 30 cents per transaction, if I'm not wrong. That's based on their plans. I think there's another plan that doesn't charge you the 30% transaction fee. But yeah, that's just, you know, the processing fee you need. Webflow also charges a transaction fee on the standard price, on the standard plan. So the 2% extra. So you have to keep that in mind. Obviously, I would just go with the $74 a month for zero transaction fee. But yeah, that's like the only thing you need apart from that. And obviously PayPal, which PayPal also takes a percentage. So those are all things you need to consider. Is it possible to use local payment providers? No. So that is a huge thing that Webflow is trying to work on, to expand their payment processing providers. But right now, these are the only two options that we have.
Okay, the next one is from Emmanuel, and the question is there a reason why you used REMs for your margins and paddings and not EM, VM, edge, percentage, or pixel? Also, which is better to use for great responsiveness for a product?
So it really is, this is more a preference type of situation. Why do I use REMs? Because I can keep more control of the outer blocks that are wrapping, for example, my buttons that have a margin. Because when you use, for example, REMs, the REM is being affected by the root value, which is the body text size. So the body text size will usually be 16 pixels. So the REM will multiply its value by the root, which is the body text height. It's a little complicated, and I don't want to confuse people, but REM gives me a little bit more control. With EM, it multiplies even more based on the different wrappers that are around that specific element that are not using a fixed measurement. So until the EM finds a pixel value or a fixed value, it'll keep increasing in size, and I can risk the website being all disproportioned in a computer that the text size was set by default higher than 16, for example. So that is why I use REM. Again, this is something that it's just a conversation on its own, and I'm trying to give you a little bit of the reasons why, but that's why. Let me stop sharing my screen. I don't know why I couldn't hear you. Okay, yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah. So yeah, it was, can you create any kind of links with a brick and mortar shop? How, where do you store customer data?
Can you create any kind of links with a brick and mortar shop? How, where do you store customer data? What do you mean? I don't understand the question.
Okay, Ivan, if you would like to explain it further in the chat, and in the meanwhile, maybe we can take up another question then. Okay, the next one is on integrating e-commerce and PayPal. Would you say that it is easy to set up a couple of physical products for commerce for PayPal only? Because the client only and only uses PayPal for transactions.
Oh yeah, it's so easy. Like it's the easiest thing ever. Um, you just it's like adding a blog, like a blog post. You just go into your products and set up your structure of what you need and just start adding your products. And the only payment would be PayPal. I mean, I've seen stores that only use PayPal, so I don't see a problem.
Okay, maybe this can be the last one then. So, how does customer sign up and login work?
So again, we did it on MemberStack, so it's different from the one we have now that it's the Webflow memberships, which by the way, I haven't used yet and I'm dying to use it. But if we go to this section, this is the private section for her clients, and it all works with attributes. So if we go here, we see that MemberStack gave us a attribute, like a URL attribute to add to each button, so it knows when to hide and show when a client is logged in or logged off. Once they are logged in, that this folder that we have here will obviously, have all the pages that are gated for those clients that are paying. So yeah, obviously it's a little bit more extensive than that, but you kind of have to add little attributes to different buttons and pages, And once you are in member stack, you can list the pages that are going to be gated. I see one here from France, and maybe that could be the last one.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think card details and addresses can be saved for a returning customer. I am not sure about that, so don't quote me on that. And then the other person asks, Paula, she asked, can you please answer how to make your e-commerce web shop multilingual? So there's a service called Weglot. I've used it. It works fine. Sometimes you have to edit the content because it's using like a machine. So the translations are not 100% perfect, but it's, a solution that you can use. I think that, do you have more?
No, that's it from the chat. Yeah. And I would say we can always connect back later so people can join in flow party or they can ask around in the network launch as well. Okay. So thanks a lot, Melissa, for joining us today. I'm really very grateful to have you here today, and I'm sure everyone enjoyed the session. And thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us today, or if you're seeing it later as a YouTube recording. A few quick reminders before we say bye for today. So hope you all have started working on your case submission. The deadline for it is 13th February. Feel free to share and receive feedback with other learners in the networking launch or the Slack community. Also remember that the shortlisted cases get featured in demo day that will be on 17th of Feb. So post your learnings on social using hashtag Webflow with ADPList, and you can also get featured in our next email. See you soon on Wednesday, where we start with tear down sessions, learning the best practices of what to avoid while creating Webflow sites. And thanks again. Have a great week ahead.
Thank you. Bye.